What's up, guys? It is Carly here bringing you another weekly dose of horror, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie that I saw probably a year or two ago for the first time, probably honestly 2 years ago, and I was kind of like not wanting to go back to it, but of course it came up for the sake of this video series, and that is The Cat O' Nine Tails by Dario Argento, and this is from the year 1971. Now, I know most people really enjoy these types of movies, but I've said time and time and again that I am just not a big fan of giallos or gialli, whatever you want to call them. I don't know, it's just something about the narrative and plot just never really interests me, the whole crime stuff. So I was kind of like dreading going back to this one, but I figured, you know, I might like it this time around. But the story with this one is you have this blind man as well as this other investigator who try to work together to uncover a series of crimes that are taking place, and they basically have like 9 clues to kind of go off of, and that's kind of where you get the title here. So they're trying to investigate and find out who it is that's doing these killings and other crimes around the town, and that's, you know, the very cookie cutter version of the story here. So yeah, I was kind of dreading this one. It's also almost 2 hours long, and we know me, I don't really like watching long movies, and if I'm being completely honest, I pretty much felt the same way about this one that I felt the first time I saw it. This was actually one of the first giallo films I'd ever seen. You know, it's when I kind of started really collecting horror movies, and I decided to pick this one up, and I was excited to kind of just get into these just Italian movies in general because I wasn't too overly familiar with films like this, especially the giallo flicks, and there are obviously a lot of them, especially from this time period. So I was excited, but then upon watching it, I just found that I could not get too interested in it, and I found that I had the same issue with it this time around. And I really do think I'm just not a big fan of the whole crime narrative thing where they're trying to kind of solve a mystery and find out who did it, and it's people always kind of compare these to like the Scooby-Doo type of plot line, and it's sort of like Scooby-Doo stuff for adults. I do like Scooby-Doo, but with this, it's like I find it hard to kind of follow. I always feel like there's too many characters, which in this one I will give it that. There's really not overly that many people in it. You just have like the blind guy, the main detective, and a few others here and there that are essential to the plot. So it's not like it's overly confusing like some of the other ones I have seen, but I just cannot get into it, and it's like if you're not really paying attention to the dialogue and all that from the get-go, which I will say I was, like at the beginning, it was pretty much the same effect where at the beginning I was into it, where you have the blind man and his niece kind of walking, and he asks her to describe the guy in the car. I am into that. It's just kind of pretty much the middle sections that I fall out of, and I find them not paying close attention to no matter how hard I try. It's like one of those ones where I keep grabbing my phone or being distracted by, you know, some internal thoughts or something like that, and I'm just not overly into it. There are parts that I do like I like when they go in the cemetery and he gets locked in the I forget what that's called, but it's where you know, he's like looking at a grave. It's not really a grave, but it's like a coffin, and he gets locked in there, and then the blind guy actually has like the knife at the end of his cane that he attacks the attacker with, and I like stuff like that. And the climax to the movie, that was like the main thing I kind of remembered from it. I do enjoy that as well. It gets a little bit violent and more suspenseful towards the end, and leading up to the climactic ending there. I do enjoy how it all wraps up, but you know, it's just not overly entertaining to me. The kills in this movie are also not over-the-top kills. Sometimes in Italian movies you get really gory kills or just very inventive ones, and this one's more just like basic strangling and regular attacks, so it's not like that. Keeps you overly interested as well. I would say this one isn't as horror as other ones where, you know, they always say these are kind of like the proto-slasher type of movies because you do get some decent kills in these movies, but they're more plot heavy and narrative based. This one is definitely more focused on the actual mystery and crime and the whodunit aspect, so that's kind of just my opinion and why I don't really care for it too much. Again, I know this is one of the more famous ones. It is, of course, an Argento film, and people think pretty highly of him and respect him. And he does have movies that I do enjoy, of course, but yeah, Gialli, they just don't really do it for me. So, but to give it a fair rating, I guess I would base this off of how good the movie is, as well as a mixture of how much I personally enjoyed it. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I'm sure it's higher up on people's list of those who do enjoy these types of films, but for me, I don't really like it all that much. So 7 out of 10. I still think it's a solid film, but it's just not really my cup of tea. So 7 out of 10 for Cat of Nine Tails. Thank you guys again for joining me for this weekly dose of horror, and as always, I will see you next week.